All right, let's get started. Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar on the NPSS Support Hub's Community Collaboration Challenge. We hope you've had some time to review the website. It contains some great information, including the application and rubric. My name is Dorothy Jones. I'm the Director of Corporate, State, and Local Partnerships for the National Partnership for Student Success. My colleague Caitlin Amaral is also on the call. I do want to mention that this webinar is being recorded. It will be available on the website next week, so folks who aren't able to join today can access this information. And to share a quick agenda, we'll do an overview of the NPSS, an overview of the Community Collaboration Challenge, and then we'll dive into questions. And you'll be able to use the Q&A function via Zoom to enter your questions. We also asked for some as you were signing up for the webinar, so we have a few ready to go, but we'll put out a call to questions later on. Let's get started. So the National Partnership for Student Success, or NPSS, is a 3-year effort led by the Biden-Harris administration, including the U.S. Department of Education and AmeriCorps and the Johns Hopkins University Everyone Graduates Center, which is where the support hub is housed. The NPSS was launched at the White House on July 5th, alongside a call to action for an additional 250,000 Americans to become tutors, mentors, student success coaches, post-secondary transition coaches, and wraparound or integrated student support coordinators over the next 3 years. We all know that students, families, educators, schools, and communities are facing unprecedented challenges today. And many of these challenges existed long before the pandemic, but they've been exacerbated in many cases and highlighted on a national scale because of COVID-19 and the resulting disruptions to schools and student life. The NPSS brings together a wide variety of stakeholders: schools, districts, federal and state and local government agencies, AmeriCorps programs, state service commissions, nonprofits, and others, around the common goal of getting more trained people to support students in high impact and evidence-based roles so they can not only recover from the impacts of the pandemic, but succeed and thrive. The NPSS Support Hub is a cross-sector connector focused on helping national, state, and local efforts that bring evidence-based student supports where they're needed most. We've begun supporting school districts, American Service Corps, AmeriCorps, state service commissions, local, state government agencies, and both national and community-based nonprofits, student support providers to increase the number of students receiving evidence-based, people-powered supports based on locally determined needs. We, along with our technical assistance leads, are focused specifically on these 5 roles because evidence exists behind each of them, indicating they can result in a range of possible outcomes for students, from academic growth to improved connections between student and school, improved student well-being, and reductions in chronic absenteeism. And depending on the setting, people in these roles may be full-time or part-time employees, or they may be volunteers. But they'll be working side by side with educators, youth work professionals, and other personnel in school and in out-of-school time settings. We have a coalition of over 120 champions across the country committed to providing the academic, mental health, and other supports that our young people need to succeed. And this is where you and the Community Collaboration Challenge come in, and I'll turn it over to Caitlin.
Thanks so much, Dorothy. I was fumbling with the unmute button, but I think I found it. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your interest in the Community Collaboration Challenge. We're excited to share a little bit more information about it today and hopefully answer any questions you all have. So the NPSS Support Hub was excited to launch this challenge last week on January 25th, and we are officially open for business and accepting applications for this inaugural program. The purpose of the Community Collaboration Challenge is to jumpstart communities in their work to collaborate across sectors and establish partnerships for student success at both the local or state level by convening spaces to bring stakeholders together to discuss and establish partnerships. This challenge is a stipend program that was made possible by support from the New York Life Foundation, to help connect schools and districts with high quality providers of holistic evidence-based supports. So those 5 categories that Dorothy just mentioned: tutors, mentors, student success coaches, wraparound, integrated student support coordinators, and post-secondary transition coaches, and to help connect them to schools and other youth serving organizations in their communities. These $5,000 stipends are intended to be used to host local 1 or 2 day connector or catalyzer events that'll bring together school and district leaders, local nonprofits, colleges and universities, student and family groups. You see our ongoing local government agencies, other community leaders, and then, numerous other stakeholders that, could include folks like state level after school networks, children's cabinets, and youth serving organizations with a large presence in the state or nationally. So we're casting a pretty broad net because we're all in it together, and there's so many of us that are looking to support youth and students, and our impact is magnified when we come together and collaborate to do so. And it's the intent that these stipends are used to bring all of those stakeholders together, whichever of which make most sense for your community, to talk about how to bring more supports to students, both in school and in out of school settings. So that's sort of an overview of the program. I'd love to talk a little bit about what awardees will get for their participation. So, in addition to these $5,000 stipends, which we anticipate we'll be able to award to approximately 12 programs in this inaugural cycle, awardees will also have access to technical assistance from the NPSS Hub in the form of tools and resources, guidance, access to networks, support in identifying local high-quality student support providers in their area, and connections to other communities who are doing similar work. In addition, we'll also be sharing a toolkit with awardees that will help them in their design and execution of their catalyzer events. So we'll talk a little bit next about what the deliverables are for recipients of these awards. The intention is that it's a value add and it's helping you do great work and build upon a foundation that you already have. So, we expect that folks are able to hold this 1 or 2 day connector event that brings together those diverse stakeholders in their community to collaborate and set goals for getting more people-powered supports to students, like we mentioned, asking folks to participate in a virtual kickoff meeting in which all awardees will attend to sort of share, understand what questions are, think about how we can support you as an NPSS Hub team, and lean into our networks of support to do the same. This would happen virtually via Zoom. And we'd also invite folks to participate in a one-on-one conversation with members of our Hub team to think about how we can offer more specific and personalized support to you and your community as you're doing this work. And then as our goal is to, amplify and magnify our impact, we're also hoping to have awardees share learnings and information with us on their progress made, lessons learned, barriers and opportunities that they've encountered, so we can help share that information and continue to support other groups, organizations, and communities in doing this same work. We're going to open it up for questions in a minute, but I just wanted to talk a little bit around what's next and what to expect in terms of timeline, deliverables, et cetera. So as I mentioned, the applications are open, they're live. You can go click on the links on the website and access all the materials. They will remain open until the end of day on March 3rd, at which time they will begin to be reviewed by a diverse team of judges in the NPSS steering committee using a rubric, which Dorothy mentioned, which is accessible on the website and you can take a look at to understand how decisions will be made. And then we anticipate that we will be announcing this first round of awardees in late March. And to support you as you think about your applications and materials, we're going to make a recording of this webinar available. There's also, we will be posting soon, sort of curated from this conversation and other questions that have been submitted to us this far, an FAQ document that we hope will be helpful and will be live, and we'll keep updating as additional questions come in. And we're also looking to hold 2 office hour sessions tentatively scheduled for the week of February 13th and February 27th that folks can register for and drop in and ask questions, specific to your own needs as you prepare your applications. In the follow-up to this webinar, we'll be sharing an email with links to the website, the FAQ document, and links to register for those 2 office hour sessions. And then, of course, as questions come in, please feel free to reach out to us. You can email us at information@npsstudentsuccess.org with any questions you have, and we'll look to answer those, and then also look to include them in our FAQ document as well. We just went through a lot of information and not a lot of time. I hope that was helpful, but the intention here is also to help answer questions that folks have. And Dorothy, I'll turn it over to you. I know we're sourcing some from the Q&A and others that we've received thus far.
Yeah, I will jump into a couple questions that were submitted online, but yes, please add more questions to the Q&A section of this webinar so that we can answer some live as well. Caitlin, can you tell us which organizations can apply?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the short answer is lots of folks. We're looking, for US-based organizations, community-based organizations, schools, districts, local government or state government agencies, local nonprofit organizations that have a statewide, regional, local presence, who are really interested in serving as a leader in their community to help spur this cross-sector collaboration or look to establish a local or state level partnership for student success. I will note, Dorothy, that for-profit organizations are not eligible for this program at this time.
Thank you. Kind of a follow-up question that has been submitted says, if I'm currently in the AmeriCorps program, can my cohort apply for this award?
Yes, AmeriCorps programs are certainly encouraged to apply. Our AmeriCorps volunteers are an incredible source of people power and student support providers for the work of the National Partnership for Student Success.
Thank you. Someone asked to share a link for the website, so I put that into the chat. The next question that was submitted are our national nonprofits who have regional, state, or local programming eligible to apply.
Yes, national nonprofits with regional, state, or local programs are certainly eligible, and we welcome applications.
Thank you. Is this a federal grant?
It is not. So no federal funding is being used for this program. The Community Collaboration Challenge is a stipend program that was created by the NPSS Hub with generous support from the New York Life Foundation. So private philanthropy is catalyzing this stipend program.
Great. How many organizations will you be able to fund?
Yeah, great question. So for this initial round, we're looking to identify and fund approximately 12 local or state level groups that are, committed to doing this work and want to serve as the sort of lead organizer of these catalyzer conversations.
Thank you. Can you review the timeline for the 2023 Community Collaboration Challenge?
Sure. Applications are open. You can head over to the NPSS website and we'll follow up with the links like Dorothy and I mentioned soon for the materials and more information there. They'll remain open until the end of day on March 3rd. So just about a month, at which time decisions will be made around awardees. And we plan to announce that inaugural class of awardees in late March and anticipate that folks will look to hold their catalyzer events or convenings probably in the late spring or summer of 2023 in the lead up to the new year. And like I mentioned earlier, we'll be working to set up times to come together and collaborate and provide folks with tools and resources to be able to do so.
Thanks, Caitlin. Kind of a related question, because you mentioned rounds a couple of times. When will the next round be?
We are unsure. We are hoping that, and we anticipate that this will be a very successful program and communities participating will get a lot out of it, and that the NPSS Hub team will learn a lot about it and will, hopefully look to be able to do this again, in the coming months in the next school year. So more to come on that.
So apply. Lots of interest will be a good thing. Are we going to be able to participate in the challenge prior to funding being awarded?
So we, as mentioned, the request for proposal, the applications are due on March 3rd, and will be announced later in the month. And we anticipate that these events will probably be held in spring or summer. So we're hoping that the funding helps catalyze these convenings. We're hoping though, if and when an organization or sort of school or district, you name it, receives one of these awards, they're able to have conversation and identify what student need might be, and then use that assessment to design and develop the appropriate response and convening to meet that need.
Thank you. Another question about the stipends. Are they available to smaller programs? We live in a small suburb and sometimes lack larger resources and connections.
Yes, these are for communities of all sizes and all locations. I know it might be hard to understand and identify what the opportunities are in some places. So part of the technical assistance that will be offered is helping to map and identify opportunities within the region. Organizations like your State Service Commission will, also help there, identifying AmeriCorps programs and other service programs through state after-school networks, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of resources that we can point folks to. I also want to just give a plug sort of beyond the Community Collaboration Challenge to the work of the NPSS Hub. If folks are interested in receiving this kind of technical assistance and are, curious about, what opportunities exist in their location, they can reach out to the NPSS Hub for technical assistance and have a conversation about that. So those requests can also be driven through the NPSS website, and you'll find more information there.
Kind of a related question. Will only awardees have access to NPSS tools, guidance, and network?
No, that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
The design and intent of the NPSS is to help connect schools and districts and community organizations and folks across the country doing youth serving work. One of the main things we do is provide technical assistance. So I encourage you to head over to the NPSS website. There is an option to submit a form for a request for TA. And then someone will get in touch with you, and we'll be happy to have a conversation around what it is that you're looking to do, and think about how we can best support and connect you to the tools and resources that'll be helpful to do so.
Awesome. Thank you. Since we're talking about the support, one of the questions was, will professional development and training support be provided for nonprofits? You've covered a bit of that already. Do you want to mention a little bit more about the toolkit?
Yeah, thanks, Dorothy. So we're looking to develop a toolkit, which will be sort of a practical guide for how to do this work, what sort of questions to ask yourself and your stakeholders. And then, of course, live TA through conversation around how to structure these events and, where to hopefully get some of the best ROI given what your identified needs are.
Thank you. You're doing great. Throwing these at you.
They're all good questions.
Yeah. A question about the funding specifically, is there a matching requirement for the funding?
No, there are not. So there is no sort of need to go out and identify additional sources of funds in order to be eligible for these stipends.
Okay. Oh, what about limitations on allowable uses for funding?
We're happy to have conversations with folks on a case-by-case basis, but I'll say broadly, these stipends are to be used for expenses relating to hosting and convening stakeholders, and any of the costs associated with doing that work, either, marketing, the actual execution of the event, follow-up, et cetera.
Thank you. You talked a little bit in the beginning about what you're hoping to get from awardees in terms of, shared learnings, things like that. Is there any specific data at this time that they need to capture?
That's a great question. as part of the application, I assume. I think what we're trying to understand is get a sense of folks who are thinking deliberately and holistically about the needs of their student population. How they might benefit from one or many of those 5 NPSS student support categories we talked about, and a little bit of thinking around, who might make sense to bring to the table. It's okay not to have like a full understanding or map of what the assets in the community are, but just a little bit of creative thinking around, who it makes sense to bring in and collaborate with, and really, see partnership as a force multiplier in this work.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sensing that we don't really need to collect a ton of data. This is really more to create the opportunity for folks to come together in communities and be able to build stronger partnerships. So if there's any specific data that we need, we'll let awardees know, but I don't think anything's beyond learnings that we can use for potentially the next round if there is one, right?
Well said, Dorothy.
Thank you. Couple of questions on, what the ideal event would look like.
Sure. I don't know that there is one. I think the ideal event is unique to every community and its needs and its assets. The goal of the program is to organize a community response that meets the scale and scope of identified student needs. So, for example, if a local school system identifies that there are 200 students in their district that are in need of tutors, mentors, success coaches, post-secondary advisors, or wraparound supports, this effort that they undertake will be to convene and discuss how the community can come together to provide and train or support the people power in order to meet that identified need. So, and then, as we mentioned, we'll be providing folks with a toolkit with guidance and resources, along with that live technical assistance to support their work to design and execute their own Catalyzer event.
And a follow-up question on the toolkit, will it be available to help us with the application?
I don't know that, so the toolkit is specific to the delivery of the event and how to hold that event. I don't know that folks will need to have thought that, or I know that folks will not need to have thought that far ahead in filling out the application. One thing that I do think that could be helpful in filling out the application is that application rubric that Dorothy mentioned at the top of the call, which sort of breaks down the way in which applications will be assessed, what we're looking for, the sort of thoughtfulness and the approach that would be helpful.
Thank you. I'm sharing the rubric in the chat. Again, it's available on the website too, for anyone who's joining via watching the video. A clarifying question as well. It says, did I hear this correctly? National nonprofits are welcome, but not local.
Oh, I apologize if I was not clear. Both national and local, statewide, regional nonprofits are all welcome to apply.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good clarifying question.
Yes, yeah. Is there a certain age group that is targeted?
Another good question. So, we're looking to support school-aged, pre-K through 12th grade students through the work of the National Partnership for Student Success as they look to recover from the impacts of the pandemic and thrive.
Thank you. Another question we have is, how do you define high quality student support providers?
A very good and very timely question. We're recording this webinar on February 1st. In the next couple of days, the NPSS Hub is going to release a set of voluntary quality standards, which are designed to be used by schools and districts, state education agencies, youth serving organizations, foundations, and all sorts of different community groups to better understand the essential components of quality, to help them set goals as part of their own existing or emerging continuous improvement process, and help sort of establish and design new programs or consider prospective partners. So you can see the uses are both broad and varied. But these quality standards highlight a significant number of common elements across each of the 5 student support roles. I mean, you can imagine that they all need to be grounded in researched positive youth development practices. And we think that they're essential to any effort to recruit or train or place and support staff and volunteers in delivering programs that are of high quality. So I encourage folks to take a look at those standards when they're made available, as they do their own work in their communities, to identify good partners, or, think about their own work in their own programs.
Awesome. Thank you. Another question that we have is, we have 2 and potentially a 3rd site we are interested in applying for the $5,000 stipends.
I would say great. And we encourage you to apply. An organization can apply for more than one site for sure.
Wonderful. Couple of questions about utilizing the funds to mobilize mentees or volunteers. Can these funds be used to mobilize folks that are already working within a nonprofit?
Yeah, I think if the intent is to think about how to expand those mobilization efforts, or improve upon, or bring more folks together to do so, for sure, I'd encourage you to submit an application. The stipends are intended to be used to help support these catalytic events or convening. So if that fits within the parameters of what you and your organization are thinking, we welcome your application and your interest for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks everyone for the fantastic questions. And keep them coming. Like Dorothy mentioned, there'll be plenty of opportunity to continue to reach out and ask questions, and we'll look to answer those and share responses broadly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everyone for joining us. As I mentioned before, this webinar is being recorded, will be available on the website next week. If we didn't get to your questions live today, we've captured all of the questions that have been submitted in the chat, and we'll post answers to them in our FAQ document that will be up on the site next week as well. And just a reminder that we're going to be holding those office hours during the weeks of February 14th and February 27th for more individualized questions as you're working to complete your applications. Specifics and opportunity to register for those will be included in the follow-up email to attendees today, and also posted on our website. So thanks again for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you for your interest.